I had never even been on a film set before that, and that was a 6-month job, so it was jumping straight into the deep end. And yeah, it was pretty intense. The hours were really long. It was based around a group of 4 children, and so the vast majority of the scenes were performed by us. So the days on set were very long, and we were filming in the middle of winter, outside mostly, so it was quite a lot for my little 12-year-old body to manage, but at the same time I loved it, and I learnt so much. I had a wonderful cast and really supportive crew around me who now, and retrospectively, I can see really looked after me. At the time I didn't really give it a lot of thought and just sort of, did it. But yeah, it was great and felt very new and novel, but at the same time very natural. I think, at that age I was pretty confident and just thought, yep, this is what I want to do, and here I am doing it. It felt quite normal, actually. Well, I had to have purple hair, which when I found out was just the most hideous thing ever, because I was 14 and the idea of doing something that made me stand out in any way, shape or form was hideous. But luckily I was with a cast of 14 other kids who also had to have their hair dyed crazy colours, so en masse the effect was somewhat diluted. I almost can't really remember much else other than the social aspect of it, because we just were all sort of so excited by each other, like, wow, we were literally a tribe, on screen and off, and there was always lots of dramas and people were falling in love with each other, hormones raging, of course, at that age. And I think, yeah, the social aspect of that experience is definitely what defined it for me. I had just finished school, just finished 7th form, and I decided that I wanted to get braces. My teeth weren't too bad, but this tooth here was a little bit twisted, and I asked my agent, I said, do you think I should get them? And she said, well, yes, you may as well. So it was purely for cosmetic reasons and purely because I wanted to pursue acting. But I kind of had resigned myself to not working for about a year because it's very difficult to get parts when you have braces. And then the audition for WNTV came along, and I thought, okay, well, sure, I may as well audition. And then got the part, and I thought, okay, even though I'd never ever considered presenting before, but it was a 1-year contract, and I thought, okay, well, if I do this, then I can work and have braces at the same time, because it doesn't matter when you're a kids presenter, you can have braces. So, and they were clearly, I said, oh, look, I'm thinking of getting braces, and they said, well, that's fine, we don't care at all. And I thought, sure, why not? This will be a new experience. It'll enable me to work, and sounds like fun. I actually auditioned for Pascal originally because I was 20 at the time, and you get auditions basically based on your age primarily. So I went along and did it, and I think I did a terrible job. I'd be such a bad Pascal. And I left the audition thinking, right, there we go, another audition kind of down the gurgler. And then out of the blue, a couple of weeks later, they said, oh, we'd like to call you back for Loretta, the younger sister, who's 15. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous because I'm 20 and she's 15, but sure. But went and did it, and I just remember thinking, even from the very first time I read it, even though Loretta and I are very different people, I really just kind of had one of those great magical connections with the character that you always kind of hope and pray for, and they arrive and you're like, oh, where did that come from? And then I kind of just felt like I knew exactly who she was. And then that was it. I actually only did one audition for the part, which is quite unusual. And I think I was told pretty soon after that I'd got the job, and I just couldn't believe it. I was so thrilled because I'd really thought that maybe I would never ever get another job ever again in my life. It was the most fun I've ever had on set, on the Blue Rose. It really was. Even though I worked the hardest I've ever worked in my life in the middle of winter doing night shoots, which was not ideal all the time, there was just such a wonderful environment on that set. I just laughed all the time. I love working with Siobhan. we know each other so well, and we have such an easy relationship that we just sort of giggle together a lot. That sort of defined a lot of that experience for me. And all the other cast, some of whom I'd worked with a little bit before, but a lot of them I'd never met, I just thought were the most wonderful, delightful, open, lovely people. Really couldn't have hoped for a better bunch. And all the crew, all our directors, Chris Bailey, our producer, who's just one of the most delightful men I know, was our, great leader. And I think often if things trickle down from the top, and he just led us with such an open mind and warm heart that I think affected the whole environment. So the whole way through, even though sometimes we were working under pretty difficult conditions, there was just a really, really wonderful, supportive atmosphere, and I loved it. I think she's a wonderful character. She's sort of probably the most normal, middle-of-the-road character I've ever played, and in some respects, she's definitely the character who's most similar to me, I think, that I've ever played. And that was actually an unusual and unexpected challenge when I first started, because, as I said before, finding the voice and the body of a character has always really informed how I play that character. And so I was sort of, by default, doing the same thing to try to find Jane, and something wasn't quite working, because it was sort of like I was pushing her in either a too kooky comedic direction or some sort of other direction that didn't really work. And then I sort of realised that I think her body is closest to my body and her voice is closest to my voice that I've ever played. And once I sort of realised that, I thought, oh, okay, right. And then it all seemed to go quite smoothly from there. It's definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. Yeah, the most challenging role I've had by a country mile. But we were led by Dana Rotberg, who's a really wonderful director who guided us and pushed us when necessary to achieve what she knew needed to be achieved. It's a pretty intense film, so what was required was also pretty intense. Bringing it to fruition in a truthful way was really hard. It's very dark. The experiences, Rebecca is the character's name, that she has had in her life, and that she has, so the experiences that lead her up to her first scene in the film are really, really intense. And then what happens to her in the film is similarly really, really intense. And it's like nothing I've ever had to do before. And I knew when I read the script that it was going to be extremely hard, and it proved to be extremely hard. So it was literally just kind of from an acting point of view, like just doing it to the level that I wanted to do it, and kind of finding, I've never really had to dig as deep, I think, within myself for a role as I had to do for this one, which was, really, challenging, but also extremely fulfilling at the same time. One interesting pattern that seems to be continuing in my career is that I always get cast as mothers, and I've actually had to give birth many, many times on screen. My first one was on The Tribe when I was 14, so that was kind of interesting. And then since then I've had to do it 3 more times on screen, actually go through the labour on screen. So I don't know what that is about, and I'm sure it will in no way prepare me for when I do it, or if I ever give birth for real, I'll go, oh my gosh, I did that completely wrong. But it's bizarre, and it's just sort of turned into a joke now. I'll get a part, and then it'll turn out that I actually have to be pregnant and have a baby. I don't know what that's about.